to you, Frankie.
Thank you, Vishal, and thank you everyone for being here either very early in your morning. I may be what gets in the way of your breakfast, or if you're based in Europe like I am, the last thing before your aperitivo or snack, or probably dinner at the end of this call. Vishal, please go ahead, take anything you want from my side. It's all freely available. If you can use something, let me know. I'm always glad if I can bring some value. Also, don't feel you are stealing anything. It's given away for free. You can't steal what's given to you for free. If anything, it's a gift. Okay, thank you for the introduction. I think you've done an amazing job, but you know how it works. I used to be a software developer, as you'll learn in a couple of minutes. And one of the things we used to say all the time is, I know how to do it better, so I'm gonna write it myself. So thank you for the intro, but I know how to do it better. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm just kidding. I just need a hook to get into the next section. Folks at home, you have about 7 to 10 minutes to grab something to write in a piece of paper. We'll do a quick exercise. We're not gonna go away being master painters. I'm not a master painter at all. We'll do just a quick exercise halfway through. I invite you to keep your eyes and ears open and to collaborate. Feel free to chat as we go. In the meanwhile, I'll tell you a little bit of my story. And I'll do that talking visually, because that's what I like to do, apparently. Who am I? Well, you may have picked from my name, and there my camera goes, out of blur. You may pick from my name or from my wonderful Irish accent. I live in Ireland now. I've been here 10 years, but my accent, unfortunately, is still very much Italian. I say unfortunately, but I kind of like it. And very stereotypically, like almost every Italian in the world, I have plenty of passions. Can you guess which ones are these? Any idea? You can write it in the chat. We'll not be able to change them. There's no prize if you win. Food, absolutely, yes. I discover now, as I'm asking what are my preferences, food, I should have put food in any of these, but unfortunately, that's not the one. Clothes, yeah, I like looking at clothes, but that's not my forte. Let's see what I put for this presentation in. The first one is piano, and actually, more than piano is pushing buttons. I should have been probably president of the United States or something and having a big red button in front of me, but I settled for a typewriter first and then a keyboard. I couldn't afford a piano at the time, and the digital one I had was, but still, the passion was pressing buttons, and we'll see how that evolved over time. My second huge passion, you see that the heart is bigger, is huge, is video games. I've never been a professional video gamer, but I played a lot. You could say too much, and you would be absolutely right. You can ask my parents. Absolutely right. I drew a Mario here, not any Mario, that Mario, the Super Mario. I never had a Nintendo. I'm making it up now that I have a little bit more money in the bank. Not so much, just enough. This I was fully aware of. I think I was born, these are two of my first memories. I saw the first video game when I was maybe 4, and I was told that I was born wanting to push buttons. My first gift was a computer, like a calculator to do, I don't know what, accounting for the groceries. What I didn't know that I loved so much was talking. Now, this may not come as a full surprise as you are listening to me ranting along, but I didn't know at the time. I was a quite introvert person who loved connecting with people one-to-one and talking. And so with that, 20-something years later, I started my professional journey. And if you combine piano and video games, or wanting to push buttons and video games, what job could I have possibly landed on? I'll let you guess as I turn my slide, my very technological Microsoft slide. I became a software developer, of course. I never landed a Thank you, Lalith, I think. Yeah, coding, that was my passion. I still like it, even if I've not done it in years. I used to love coding, never landed a job in a software, video game software company, but still, I moved my focus to the big ones, the Amazon, the Twitter, the Apple. Unfortunately, in my hometown, there was nothing like that, absolutely nothing like that. There was not much of that in Italy in general. There are companies like Microsoft in Milan and many more, but there was not much development 10 years ago. So I started growing a little bit impatient, and until I said, you know what, there's another flag that looks very much like the Italian one, but it's a little bit less red and a little bit more orangish, or gold, as they like to say here. Let's fly to Ireland. There they have proper development centers. And there I went. Oops. Sorry, this happens also sometimes. And there I went, and I worked hard, incredibly hard, massively hard. Hard, until I started, again, feeling not super happy. Why? Because I noticed as I was starting working with teams that I was thinking more about them than it. I was more thinking about bringing creativity in the way we collaborated than I thought about pushing buttons. It was still something I enjoyed, but less. And so I went to my boss, who's actually a wonderful person, but for this story, I'm going to depict in not the best way possible. The boss at the time, and I explained, I have this idea, and I think this could be amazing. This could skyrocket the happiness of our team. How cool is that? He said, well, yep, slow down, Frankie. Where's the money for that? We need to earn money. You know what are the rules of the game? Yes, unfortunately, I know it's, it's called work. It's not called hobby. Fair enough. I accepted that because I think I'm a rational person after all. And once again, I went back unhappy. I said, this starts to be a theme in my life. What can I do? Well, I discovered something called Agile, and I started talking about it. That may have happened around 3 years ago. If you scroll that far in my LinkedIn history, that's when I started posting a little bit. And during my journey, my shouting journey, I may say, I found different people with different levels of interest. Some were not positive. They were puzzled about this word that in my context was not that famous. And I apologize for the autofocus going on and off all the time. It should have been fixed, but it isn't. Some were, opposing. Some were just doubtful, neither pro or con. And some actually came on a journey with me. They decided to try things, and we started experimenting. And we became, if you want, allow me to steal the name, Scrum Masters of the universe. And we went on a journey to conquer the world. And how does the story continue, you may wonder? Well, this is for another chapter. And we fly, and fly, and fly. And we landed somewhere. We landed on this meetup, I think. That's what I'm told. Are you all still there? Hello, people. Awesome.
Hello.
Hi. Let's see. How can I bring you here with me on this journey? Well, let's start talking about what I have done so far. First of all, I told you a story, isn't it? Let me move the glasses, which are for closest distance. I started telling you a story. What has that accomplished? How did you find the story? Can you remember what were my passions?
Music.
Music, okay.
Gaming.
Gaming, okay.
Pushing
buttons, piano, talk. Sorry, what was that?
Pushing buttons.
Pushing buttons. So can I say, would you pass me if I say that introducing storytelling, visual in the storytelling made my story more memorable? Would you
More
agree to
gluey.
that?
Yep.
Okay, memorable, I'm adding gluey. That's a word I didn't know. How do you spell that?
GLUIE, if I'm not wrong.
IE. I'll trust you on that. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You saw how I messed up with the sequence. That's okay. Karen suggests that I made it relatable. Yeah. Well, thank you. That was the intention. I'm glad to see that it worked out. What else?
Set up a context.
Set up context. So context setting. Okay. And then it sparked curiosity, I'm reading there.
We have few
Mm-hmm.
responses in the chat. Inspiring,
okay.
Curious, wanting more.
Okay, okay. So, and what have I done? I just told you a story of a random person that why on earth would you care about me if not that someone recommended, go and listen to that guy, that crazy Italian guy. He will tell you something interesting. And by just sharing facts that are boring, honestly, most of us who have a software background and relocated, and there's millions of people who have done that, will have exactly the same story or very, very similar one. And still, you found it inspiring. You were curious to know more about it. I didn't give you so many information. I just packaged them in a nice, appealing way. I set the context, yet for sure. I made it relatable. I specifically chose words and emotions and visuals that you could connect to. And so I made it gluey, I'm learning today. My new word of the day. I'm trying to make this word memorable. Okay, that's cool. Storytelling, possibly the easiest and most powerful, the simplest and more powerful use of visualization. But that's not the only one. Would like to introduce you to at least two more if you're okay, for me to change chapter. Is that okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, look at that. That just comes out of automatically. Cool. Let's move to process mapping. How many of you are familiar with an ancient dinosaur called UML? Unified Modeling Language. One, two, just waiting for you to get to the keyboard. Three, let's get to 4 and 5. Perfect. 5 of you. So enough. I didn't check how many are online right now. 58. Okay, that's good. That's at least we are now in the range of 20%. Perfect. How many of you have positive memories of UML? I'm gonna draw a line. After Vicky, then that's the answer to the last question. Not so much, not, okay. There are times where it was helpful for communicating. Yes, okay, so mixed feelings. 50-ish%, I would say. We are 2 no, 2 yes, 1 in between, and now there's the thumb down. We move the needle more toward the no, counteracted by the thumb up. Okay, let's stop you there. What I'm trying to say, UML is an old and useful, in my opinion, attempt to introduce visualization to something that otherwise it's very complicated. Process mapping, understanding what goes on. I initially felt in love with class diagrams, if you know what those are. It's like big boxes where you say class A connected to class B, the one then connected inherits from this, blah, blah, blah. But then what I really, as I grew more senior in my role as software developer, I started connecting more to another diagram, which was the sequence diagram. The difference is that instead of focusing on the staticity of the structure of something, I started focusing on the dynamic behavior. More and more now systems are dynamic. Systems of software, but also of people. We need to look at the dynamic behavior. We're also now, these days, fully aware that whatever we do involves humans. And humans have a deeper level of complexity than systems. What comes to your mind? What's the biggest complexity that humans have to deal with? Emotions. Someone has done their homework. Yes, absolutely. A big missing point from UML is emotion. It doesn't mean that you can't introduce them. Now, I'm not going to use UML syntax. I'm going to use something different, more cartoonish, because I like things to be relatable. People tend to relate more to cartoons than to, boxes. Unless the box contains a ring or your gift for Christmas. Let's turn that into a gift. I like it more. Cool. Let's try to tell a story, and then, like before, let's see what it comes out. Imagine if I try to describe the process, for example, to submit an order as I have a user here who's upset for something. They send an email, and three minutes later, actually, this is an email. 3 minutes later, they get another email saying everything is okay. They calm down, and let's say 4 days later, they receive, here it comes again, the parcel. And all of a sudden, the same user here is happy. How would you feel if you were presented with some specification or a user journey drawn like this instead of 4 post-its on a mural board? Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna write who or oh. Okay, thank you. Relatable, again, connected. I'm gonna use connected if that's okay, purely to change word. What else? Easy to see the attributes, yes. I'm gonna, can I put readable? Is that okay? Easy to see the attributes. Human, absolutely yes. And I apologize if I'm skipping some words here and there. I'll just need to give up on the last ones because I'm running out of space. So imagine that tomorrow I come with this. Say, okay, this is better. I've already shown 2 possible uses of visualization. Let's bring in another one. Graphic recording. Oh, but it's only for professional, Frankie. Only people like you. I'm not a professional, by the way. Or yes, but everyone can draw this. Absolutely. Well, this is not printed, maybe, but that's okay. But every one of you could draw this, absolutely, for sure. And you can do it in multiple ways. Like you could be a person who draws during a meeting on a big flip chart, like this one. You draw whatever you want, or you could do it on your iPad if you fancy more of a digital version. Doesn't matter, both work. As I was capturing your thoughts, your words about my presentation, how did you feel? How did this make you feel? Let me draw a line if I make it on time. Ah, too late. Heard, connected. Heard. Let me add some fanciness here.
Engaged, positive, open to
Thank you.
ideas. While you're focusing on the whiteboard, I'm just reading out the responses from the chat.
Perfect, perfect. Let's put a light bulb here, because why not? A couple more, if you don't mind. You pick which ones, Vishal?
Positive, we covered that. Heard,
Yeah.
we covered that. Yep. And engaged.
And engaged. Engaged comes out a lot, similar to relatable. How often, I'm assuming that most of us actually, most of us are Scrum Masters in team. How often the problem of engagement comes up in your life? For me, often, unfortunately. I always look for ways to engage people. 99.9%, Michael. Yeah, that's fairly accurate, I would say, and probably also very precise. Also optimistic. It's probably 99999. Okay. Perfect. Nearly every meeting. So my invitation to you is storytelling, process mapping, graphic recording, 3 different contexts/techniques where you can introduce visuals. And again, these visuals here are not very complex to introduce. And look what has been the effect here. And it's on a Friday afternoon for Europe and a Friday morning on the first week of the year for all of us, actually. Well, unless you live in China. In that case, you need to wait another month to move to the new year. So why don't we do it? Well, probably because we feel blocked, isn't it? I drew here a light bulb, and I'm guessing that most of you think, oh, I can't even draw that. That's really cool. I can't do that. And I'm here to prove you that you can. Do you have pen and paper? And now, of course, it's up to you if you want to draw along with me or not. But I invite you to do it for the next 5-ish minutes, if that's okay. Also, when you will feel, yeah, this is not needed, do it as a warm-up, if I can ask you. And let's start from the basic. The talk is talking visually. When you talk, you're using what? A language. And a visual is very much a written language. So there are certain things that are typically in use. You typically have an alphabet and a grammar to build some words, isn't it? Let's look at the alphabet. And I can share later a link to the paper, the material, etc. I may also do a reveal at the end if Smoto allows me to do so, as long as you don't tell anyone else.
We would love that.
Let's do that.
And
cool.
Just in line to this, Frankie, there are questions in the chat, direct questions. Few people want to know your setup. They want to run these types of visualization things in their meeting. So the infrastructure setup, if you could share it at the end. Thank you.
Very happy to. And I would say, if you give me 5-ish minutes, after that, any question you have, just either mute yourself and ask out or ask Vishal. Vishal, if you can help me keeping track of all the questions, I'm very happy at the end of these 5 minutes before we move to the next section.
Yep.
Thank you. Awesome. So let's go back to our boring grammar. I don't know, but I actually liked it as a kid, and then I ended up being a developer. Maybe the clue was there. But before the grammar, the alphabet. What do we need to write? Well, in the visual world, we need symbols that look like a dot. This is particularly round, by the way. Never comes out this way. And then you have a straight line. And then you have a triangle. And then you have a square. And then you have a circle. I'll try to make it as round as I can. There you go. It's not exactly round. It's wobbly as usual, but that's okay. And then just to release the tension on my hand, a squiggle. Now, my promise to you is that if you're able to draw these things here, you can draw anything you want. This is everything you need to talk visually. Well, how is it possible? Well, if you can draw this, you can draw letters. I'm pretty sure you can draw A, right? Or B, or C, and so on and so forth. But what are these? Well, A, it's 3 straight lines. B, it's a straight line and 1 semicircle with another semicircle. C, it's easier, it's just 1 semicircle. And if you want, I could go through the entire alphabet, but hopefully you trust me at this point. Now, this is where the true magic happens, because you've been trained to do this your entire life. So I absolutely bet that every one of you can write this with your eyes closed. Maybe it's going to be a little bit wonky, a little bit wobbly, but you're going to be able to write it without any fear. If you can do this, you can also draw. It's just a matter of finding the hidden compositions. Now, I'm going to write a word. Some of you may already know it. If you know it, don't shout out. Leave possibly the others a chance to discover it. There's a magical word called Usmo that can light up, can turn on a light bulb in your visual mind. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. How would you combine these 4 to light up your visual mind? Let's see what happens if I try to combine them. Zoom. Oh, that's interesting. That's a nice play of word, Magda, but I was not going there. Where I was going is this. I'm writing the O. I'm writing the U. I'm writing the Z. And I'm writing the M. And yes, Vicky, you get your light bulb. Oh, it's a little bit maybe not proportionate, but there you go. Just add 3 lines, maybe a little bit of color if you have it handy. And I think no one has any problem to recognize a light bulb. And I've drawn it using letters that you've been used to write your entire life. There's plenty of icons like this that you can draw just either with letters or going back to this. If you remember, I drew twice a parcel, a package. That's a square. With a cross, which is 2 lines like this. And then you can go fancy or not. let's say that I do a squeezed circle, 1 and 2. And here I have my parcel. And it's a parcel, or could be a product, or could be a release, or could be a surprise. I can start attaching so many meanings to this, as many as I want. Cool. Glad to read that someone is happy. Do you want one additional quiz to see if you can come up with the icon from the letters? Okay. Then I'm gonna give you, Jay. What's your guess? A puppy? Oh. An umbrella, says Paul, and Magda suggests a flower. Yeah. I can use these to compose an umbrella. We can probably add an O to do a flower. Let's try for those who, to validate for those who guessed it, and to see it for those who didn't guess, which is also okay. So let's start with the umbrella first. We need to be a little bit creative here. We need to turn my first U upside down. And then I need my 3 U's also upside down. Gonna add a 4th, sorry. Mistake in proportion, but you see. And then I attach my J, maybe I remove the serif here. And here I have my umbrella. And what can I use for my umbrella as a metaphor? Person holding something. Ah, sorry, that was from before. If I were to put it in one of my diagrams, safety, protection, shelter, yes. Absolutely. So it could also be for
an
protection.
overarching concept.
Overarching concept. So here we are going one layer more abstract. Absolutely. Let's go to our flower. Then I have my O, my 4 U's. I'm gonna put them a little bit. What do you say? Change a little bit the proportion, but these are still U's. And then I have my J. And I can attach to this. Well, first of all, of course, I can add, once I get here, well, it's not very difficult to add more U's to make the flower a little bit more rich, a little bit richer. And what kind of meaning can I attach to a flower in a work context? Growth, beauty. Blossoming ideas, collaboration, joy, almost anything. I love that answer, Michael. You can attach almost anything, almost any meaning to any picture. Today, you've already put in your dictionary now, because you have words, 1, 2, 3, 4 visual words. You've put in your dictionary already 4 words that in the visual world maps to probably 4 million meanings. We've experienced here how each word can be mapped to at least, each visual word can be mapped to at least 10 concepts, 10 written, traditionally written words. So if you try to think of how long did it take you to get here, more than 5 minutes than I promised, but you know, still 7, 8. And we actually got to this part in the last 4 or 5 minutes. So it's roughly 1 minute each to learn a vocabulary of 20, 30 words. It's going to take you half an hour, and you're covered for 300 different concepts. There you go. You can all talk visually from now on. Let me sit down. I think there were questions and things. Vishal, can you help me retrieving the questions if you don't mind?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the question, the initial one was, people want to understand the setup that you have with the flip charts, whiteboard, the camera, the infrastructure thingy.
Okay, with pleasure. It's a setup that I built over a couple of years. And I've recently, as in recently means the last day before going on holiday, Christmas holiday, I reassembled my entire office so that it looks tidier and cooler than it was before. But before it was an absolute mess. And you're gonna see now it's still a mess. So what do I have? What's the best way to show that to you? Let me see if I can do something magical, if I can find my other phone. Yes, there it is. Trying to get an external camera, if I can do it in a... Wonderful. Can you see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Let me remove a few post-its that were not supposed to be shown on camera. Okay. That's my office. Here you have the flip chart. 2 monitors on a stand. They were not on a stand until very recently. It's not a Lego piranha, it's just a piranha, but it's a lamp. It was given as a gift before Lego decided to partner on that. I can also show you my motivational quote from my lovely fiancée.
A quick inline shout to this. What camera are you using?
So right now, I work on a Mac, and then you can see there. And down there's another laptop of a client I'm working with. So I have multiple cameras. Here I have it's an iPhone. It's a cheap iPhone, something 10, 12 SE. That Mac allows you to use an external camera. I have a document camera, VQ Pro from ePivo. Can you see that? Yeah. You can see probably plenty of Neuland objects there, markers. And the flip chart is also Neuland, so I'm happy to send you a link for that. And if someone is very, very interested, reach out, because the secret I'm going to share with you is that I've just been nominated as Neuland ambassador. So I may have a discount for you if you reach out separately. And if you want to buy a big fancy thing for your office. But don't share that too loudly with the world. And then this camera here is a new, very fascinating beast called Insta360. And I don't remember, I think it's called actually, the brand is Insta360. It's very smart. It follows me. Maybe you can see it. No. You can enable it so it follows you wherever you want to go or not. Yeah, I could showcase it, but there's probably no point. I'm going to disconnect from here and go back to my screen.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure. Because absolutely not prepared. So you can also see my post-its. I throw away like 80% of the post-its, reorganize them before the holidays. So it's tidier than it used to be. Any other question that I may have missed? Awesome. Now, we still have 14 minutes to spend together. If you want, oh, questions are coming now. So while we deal with the current wave of chats, there's an activity that I was thinking to do, if you want, to look at where we can use visualization. So as long as we have questions and comments coming, I'm going to stick to those. For the remaining time, we're going to move to the other activity. Why does the quote motivate you? I'm reading from Ahmed. It helps me not taking myself too seriously. Eternally undecisive. I can never choose. Sometimes I go in a crisis when I need to choose between two loaves of bread, because, and on that I'm adamant, two different pieces of bread will taste differently. So the choice, and I love food, as we said at the beginning. So the choice is important. And I can't make the choice. And sometimes it's paralyzing. So that reminder there is for me to say, yeah, it's okay.
Yep, and there was a TED talk. The speaker was sharing with the happy mood, with the happiness um, enzymes and mood, you can grasp the concept more and more instead of having a toxic mood.
Thank you. If you can share the link, Vishal, to the tech talk, if you can find it in the meanwhile, that
Sure.
would be.
There is one question. Which pens pen you are using?
Yeah, Neuland all the way. I'm an absolute fan. Absolute. I'm gonna share the link here. I'm not getting paid, by the way, to share this link. It's just pure love for the brand. They are amazing. They look a lot of after sustainability. Maybe I should have dropped it here if I were a more conscious. There we go. User of the chat. Yeah. Their markers are incredibly high quality. They're fillable. They use ink that is water-based. You can change even the tip. So you basically can use most of the marker until it's very old, potentially forever. And so it's environmental friendly. They have great colors. I love that they have multiple sizes that helps with organizing information hierarchy. They have enough colors, not too many, just enough, the Goldilocks of colors, if I may say. It's a German company, so maybe harder to get things in the US over that side of the pond, but they still deliver there. I love the quality of their, I haven't tried the furniture yet, but this has been a lifesaver during COVID. I needed a way, while I was living in a living room, someone during a coaching course that I was taking during weekends suggested I need to do something to change my space. Otherwise, I would have been in my tiny, sorry, I'm rambling on. I'm going to stop in a moment. I was living on a micro temporary table, 1 meter away from a piano, an actual piano that I managed to buy a few years ago, digital piano, and another meter away from the couch, basically spending 16 of my waking hours every day, including weekends, in a, I don't know, in a room, said you need to change the space. And this for me was the solution, something that can be moved around, you can rotate it, it's very high quality. And I was, depending on what I was doing, I was creating a background for that thing. So I felt, while I'm watching myself in the video, like I was in a different space.
Okay, there are a couple of more questions in the chat. Michael have asked twice. So let's give a quick preference to him. How did you first get into talking visually? And then we can combine Rachel and Magda's question, and then we can address that before our quick exercise that Frankie wants to run.
Thank you. And I'm happy to drop the exercise. It's more to leverage the wisdom of the crowd. But if you prefer this, is you never know how much people will be chatty and curious. So I prefer to have a plan B. That was my plan B.
Yeah. So how did you get into visualization first?
I think it started with my dad. He can't explain things. He forced me in a nice way. Every time he likes to build stuff DIY, and he needs to draw it before he does it. If he doesn't do that, he's not able to. And so he transmitted that to me. And I think the turning point for me specifically was around 12, 13. And it's a memory that came up a few hours ago. I became obsessed into making sure that my geometry problems fit in a single page of a tiny book. I wanted to run 2 geometry problems in that page. And because the text of the problem was too long, I needed to find a way to shorten it. And so I started replacing rectangles with an actual rectangles, angles with a symbol for angle. And slowly I developed my own visual language until my teacher suggested that I stop doing that because my friends were making fun of me. So I stopped for 20-something years. And then during COVID, a little bit before COVID, I discovered Bicablo, which is the method that I learned to be able to do this. And that changed my life again. Does that answer the question, I hope?
Michael, what do you say? Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yes, it does answer the question. That's quite interesting. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for unmuting and responding. So next one from Rachel. Magda gave her the preference as she was the first one. Do you find it challenge to work when groups are culturally mixed? I used to draw sandwiches and triangles, and my Japanese colleagues thought there were mountains. Yeah. So when we are in geographically distributed teams, this does matter. Yes, Frankie.
Thank you for the question. First of all, both Rachel and Vishal and Magda for giving space. I would answer to that question, yes and no. Yes, it's a challenge, but with an easy trick, you can overcome it. If you notice, while I'm drawing, I'm talking out loud. That helps at many levels. Helps me keep in focus as never got diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I'm neurodivergent in some way. I get distracted very easily. Gives me, helps me keep in focus, but also ensures that whatever I'm drawing, out of the 2,000 different meanings that he may have, is the one that I'm giving. So if I draw this, it's a triangle. If I draw this, it's a sandwich cut in half, a club sandwich. If I draw this, it's now a mountain. And if I ask you, what's this? Hopefully you will remember that this is not the mountain, not the triangle. I see Rachel nodding, so I consider that explained. You need to be careful, but you know, the more you make it explicit, visualization is all about making the invisible visible, the intangible tangible, the implicit explicit. It's basically the essence of facilitation, if you want. Thank you, Rachel.
Any more questions? Anybody wants to dig deeper into Frankie's visual thinking tips?
Yeah, hi, Frankie. This is the other Michael, or one of the other Michaels.
Hi, Michael.
I really appreciate your presentation style, your attentiveness, and the way you're presenting. And you talked about being maybe a little divergent there, but how did you, I'd love to learn more about the tools you've used to overcome that and get really good at what your presentation style, the patience and all of it.
Thank you, first of all. There are multiple answers as usual. I can describe my journey. There's actually, if you want, a presentation that I'm doing where I describe my journey that started with a meetup where I discovered Bicablo. And as Vicky mentioned, yes, that changed my life for the better. I attended all of their trainings. I can strongly recommend them. At a certain point, I admit I did try to become one of their trainers, but there were already so many amazing people. Just sign up to any of their trainings. They're fantastic. I am developing my own thing. Should I ever get enough people to reach out, we'll probably release it. The second shameless plug, there's a chance to connect with me, always on LinkedIn for free. And if you want to dedicate a one-to-one session, There's now a link where you can book that. If you want an easier version that you can do asynchronously, I don't know of many trainings to be done on that are self-paced, but I can recommend other meetups if that's okay. There are 2 other meetups in Europe that I would strongly recommend. That are focused on visualization. One is Visual Jam, and the second one is Scott Viz. They have the best visual thinkers in the world going there monthly. And you just go there and watch the best ones. And the vast majority of everything, of the things you've seen me doing here, I can quote, I stole the idea of the presentation from Patti Danda, one of the 2 founders of Visual Jam. I stole the idea of the alphabet from a presentation I've shown from Mike Road, who's the kind of the inventor, the godfather of Sketchnote. This one is Usmo. It's not a concept I invented. This is from Bicablo. I just assembled. I usually don't create. I assemble someone else's creation, if you want. And I got a lot of this for free. Plus, being a training passionate, I was going to use a bad word, I also signed up for all the Bicablo trainings I could find.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for that.
My pleasure.
Last 2 minutes, there's one interesting questions. Many of us are appreciating that question from another, from the earlier Michael. Which of the Scrum events will you talk visually the most?
That would have been our session, our plan B. I'm possibly boring here. I'm going to say retrospective because that's the easier one for us to take ownership and to drive. There's a lot of resources. Big shout out to people like Chris Stone in Primis, but not only, for all the resources they share all the time freely. Steven Sampson John is another great person that is creating a lot of stuff for free. I usually love to introduce visualization during brainstorming or any conversation that happens. When I notice it lasts more than 5-10 minutes, I'm saying, let me get my document camera. Or someone was asking, can you do this digitally? Absolutely. I was not ready to show that, but I have an iPad here. You can connect also very smoothly and start drawing on the iPad. You can also connect the iPad on Mural, so you draw with a pen on Mural or Miro or PowerPoint or whatever you want. So that also becomes collaborative.
Cool.
I have a question, Frankie. This is Karen. Do you use this more for like launch concepts, big thinking ideas versus complex process modeling?
I would say I don't have an answer to that. Is whatever triggers my creativity that day, I try to follow the instinct and say, probably if it interests me, it may interest at least another person. So let me try that. I enjoy more what I do, and hopefully people will also enjoy more. I just want to be conscious of time. I think Vishal was trying to wrap up. I'm happy to stay longer or answering offline, but I want to be respectful of the time box.
We can address this and then we can wrap up. And folks can definitely reach out to Frankie offline. I have shared the LinkedIn and Instagram links. Yep.
Thank you. So I think, Karen, I'm not sure if that's the answer you were looking for, but I think my main message is it's not just for big blue sky thinking or sharing a vision. You can use this all the time. Actually, you use this all the time. If you're a Scrum Master, I bet, I want to be careful. I bet my salary of 6 months that if you use at least once in your lifetime a Kanban board.
I do organizational change. So
There you go.
So, you know, I see this like reorganization of teams in Agile. I see conceptually, you know, this being a great tool for that. But then when I'm thinking, you know, real complex swim lanes, maybe a different software for that, because that's what organizations use, right? But to conceptually have everyone, you know, in sync with that, I would see, you know, this is very powerful. Simple, reduce complexity to simplicity and clarity.
I may try to dig a very old picture when I try to spice up my Scrum board with some pictures. I think you can combine. I think one of the most powerful, I'm gonna get fired by someone for this. One of the most powerful visualization tools existing in the world is Excel. It's a visualization tool. You don't need to go as fancy as drawing a flower. Once you position items in a space, you're visualizing something. Even just the act of drawing numbers. And then you can start adding colors, and then you can start maybe adding icons. With the same concept in mind, if you have a a complicated workflow, a complicated situation, and you have swim lanes there, I'm pretty sure you can find ways to spice it up and use certain visualization concepts. For example, alternating colors so that they become more visible. Maybe adding a gradient in case the usual RAG status. This is hard, this is not hard. And are they bold to show the status of progress or how expensive something may be? There are multiple things that you can add to add meaning in a way that is more rich than just a paragraph of text, even in a very
All right. Okay,
makes
thank you.
sense.
Visual Gems was one of the groups in Europe. What's the other one? I didn't catch it.
Scott Viz.
Ooh,
Let me find that briefly for you.
just
Scott,
spell it.
time to find it, please. Scott Viz and Visual Gem. By the way, the person who taught me to draw is the founder of Scott Viz, unfortunately left us a couple of years ago.
Cool. Thanks for sharing those links. Thanks, Karen, for last minute shout to dig more into his creative mindset thoughts. Thank you so much, Frankie, for such an awesome session to kickstart our learning journey in 2024. We will be bringing in more of such awesome meetup sessions soon. Please keep an eye on the Scrum Masters of the Universe meetup page to understand the further meetups. Thank you so much, Frankie, and thanks everyone for joining in. Such an awesome session. Have a nice day and nice weekend, everybody. Cheers.
You
Thank
too.
you.